Story time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing story time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing.
Good morning and welcome to Story Time. Happy Friday wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're ready for another beautiful story. Thank you so much for joining in. Let us see who else is with us today. But of course, we have a special book lined up and I hope you're ready for this one. This is called Enemy Pie. Yes, Enemy Pie. Written by Derek Munson and illustrations by Tara Calahan King, and of course being read with permission of Chronicle Books of San Francisco. Good morning to you and welcome to Story Time. Thank you for joining me today. I am glad you're here, and yes, please, as always, let me know where you're joining in from and who is joining in with you. Thank you so much for joining in. Happy Friday to you.
Read me all of the stories. Some with people who look like me, others very different from the way that I look and think. Read me all of the stories.
All right, welcome. Thank you so much for joining in. I am glad you're here. Beautiful book awaits indeed. I am excited about this one. I think it is one of the funniest ones, and I hope you are ready for it. And I'm sure most people remember it as well. It has been around for quite a minute. Thank you so much for joining in. Good morning to you. Happy Friday. It is sunny out here in Oakland, sunny and warm, and today we are at 55 so far, so not too bad. Hopefully to be outside later on. But before we read Enemy Pie, there's this book that I received and I've been looking at. It's pretty amazing, and there is a page with jokes on it, so we're going to try a few dad jokes and see how people if people can figure out those. We'll do two maybe and then see if you can figure them out, but I think they'll have you definitely smiling or chuckling wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining in. But yes, indeed, we are reading Enemy Pie. I am excited for that one. I think it is delicious. Good morning to you and welcome to Story Time. Thank you for joining in. Let us see who is with us. And, at this point, Sarah and Nathan are the undisputed champions of coming in first. Joining Story Time first. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining in as always. Much appreciated. Sarah and Nathan first in the door, joining in from cold but sunny Illinois. Thank you so much for joining in today. I am glad you're here. Good morning to you, Amanda West, as well. Thank you. Good morning to you, Madalena Iron and Tudo. How are you doing today? Right here in San Francisco. Good morning to you. you. Happy Friday, you say. Thank you so much for joining in. Oh, Miss Vera, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining in. Yes, indeed, our very own librarian. Thank you so much for joining in, Jen Vera. Absolutely appreciate it that you are here. I'm glad you can still join in on Fridays. Thank you so much for joining us today. Good morning to you, Marietta and Henry. You're saying happy Friday to everybody, and you are in Harvard, Massachusetts. Thank you so much for joining in. Good morning to you, and welcome to Story Time. Yes, I hope you're ready for today's story. Jeremiah Chiesu, how are you doing? And you're joining us all the way out in Zambia, I'm assuming. Good morning to you. Is it good evening to you? Thank you so much for joining in. Please let me know where you're joining us from. Thank you so much for joining in. And who is joining in with you if you have a party with you? Thank you so much for joining in. Ellen Edwards in Chicago, as always, in cold and sunny Illinois. Thank you so much for joining in. Good morning to you, Ellen Edwards. Absolutely appreciate you. Thank you. And good morning to you as well, April Booker Osborne. Good morning to you. How are you doing today? And please, April, let us know who joined in with you. I am glad you are here enjoying story time. The name it doesn't sound familiar, so I hope if it's your first time, welcome to Story Time. And I apologize if I don't remember from last time, but absolutely love it that you're here. Thank you so much for joining in Story Time. Enid, good morning to you. Yes, indeed, it is the book dance. Thank you. Absolutely love it. How are you doing? And you're joining us from Oregon. Good morning to you. And Heather Farah, good morning to you as well. Thank you so much for joining in. Enemy pie is one of my favorites. Jen Betta, I'm glad I've never got an enemy pie from you. Thank you so much for joining in. Good morning to you and Auntie Pam and the homeschooling king folk here today. You say yesterday was 68 degrees, today is 42 degrees. We're so confused. Coats, jackets. Oh, I hear you. I'm telling you, like, yeah, the weather is you just have to be prepared for anything right now. And just a reminder also of how much we need to be taking care of our environment, taking care of our planet, so that this crazy weather or this global warming and everything that is happening can be mitigated. Thank you so much for joining in and for sharing that as well. Good morning to you, Kavaya, Braylon, and Chad. I will not forget Chad, Kavaya, and Braylon. Good morning to you in Nakitosh, Louisiana, and of course Pamela Courtney. Thank you so much for joining in today. Happy Friday to you, Harmony Beth, and you're saying happy Friday to everybody. I want a piece of the chocolate pie you posted. Absolutely, I have that recipe in my head now. A friend of mine showed me how to do it, and yeah, definitely a favorite for me right now. Thank you so much. It was a good one. I think I have one more slice left. Good morning to you, Ava Scarlett. It has been a minute. How are you doing? And of course, Jade joining us from England. Thank you so much for joining in from across the pond. Good morning to you. Is it good evening to you on that side? Thank you so much for joining in. Ethan and Evan joining us from Katete, Eastern Zambia. Muritiani, good morning to you. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining in. I am glad you're here. All right. April, you're saying this is my first time joining in live. I'm here with my 3 children and my husband in Orange County. Well, welcome to Story Time. Thank you so much for joining in. Please do share their names. Good morning to you, kids, and of course, good morning to you as well, Dad. Thank you so much for joining in. I am glad you're here. Please welcome, and I hope this is not the last story time we're doing together. I hope we have many more together. Thank you so much, and welcome to Story Time. Nsonta Mwanza, good evening to you, my brother, out in Zambia. Thank you so much for joining in. I am glad you're here. Oh, absolutely. Please send the names of the kids as well so we can say hi to them. Thank you so much. Absolutely love it. Irene, good morning to you. How are you doing? Yes, indeed. It was a chocolate pie. It has some coconut in it, coconut milk, and it's just delicious. In it, how are you doing? One more time. I would try not to, Irene. I would try not to, but this enemy pie looks delicious. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining in. And of course, our newcomers today. Thank you so much for sharing. April, Jemison, Alicia, and Lindley. How are you doing today in Orange County? Thank you so much for joining in. Absolutely love it that you're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you. And I hope I got your names correctly. Please, if I did not say them correctly, send me the pronunciation so I can practice and get them right next time. Good morning to you, Jemison, Alicia, and Lindley. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining in. And Sonja Mwanza, you're saying your kids, it's Mubenga and Lou. Well, Mubenga and Lou, welcome to Story Time. Yes, I worked with your dad a long time ago at Standard Chartered. And Sonja Mwanza, absolute pleasure to see you here, bud. Thank you so much. Mubenga and Lou, welcome to Story Time. All right, the community is growing, and that's what we want, right? Everybody together, learning to read, enjoying to read together, and of course, learning from each other as well. Let us get started with our story for today. I have enemy pie, and I did say I would read a joke or two, right? I did say I would read a joke or two. So before we get into our book, let us see what we have. So this book is called Illustoria, and it just made me laugh. And so one of the jokes, please, if you can figure it out, just post in the comments so we can see what you think. So the first one, I'm going to give you an easy one. I think it is. The first one is, why shouldn't you tell jokes on a frozen lake? Kids, why shouldn't you tell jokes on a frozen lake? Why shouldn't you tell jokes on a frozen lake? Anybody know that one? Please post it through. Let's see what people are saying. I am curious, but I just, the thing with jokes like this is like you laugh at them and you also just chuckle at, I find them funny. I enjoy them. So yeah, the first one was, why shouldn't you tell jokes on a frozen lake? What do we think? Because of time, and I don't think any comments come through yet. So because of time, I will tell you. And this one, it says, because it might crack up. Sorry, had to share. Yes. Oh, Amanda West, I'm sorry, I was not patient enough. Sarah says, because the ice will crack up. Absolutely, because it might crack up. Absolutely, thank you. Somebody's like, Jennifer, you might fall through. No. Thank you for indulging me. I just I've been enjoying these ones in my classroom too. We've been sharing them, and it's been fun. Here's another one though. You have another chance to try. How about this one? Did you hear the one about the mountain? Did you hear the joke about the mountain? What do you think that one will be? This one is one of the hard ones, I think. Did you hear the joke about the mountain? What do you think that one might be? I love it. Thank you, Sarah and Nathan, for sharing on the other one. Listen, did you hear the joke about the mountain? So for that one, and you can keep posting if you think you got it. But oh, maybe that's what I should do. I should come back to this one at the end of the story. Did you hear the one about the mountain? What is that one? All right, let us get started with our story for today. And we are going to be reading Enemy Pie. This one is by Derek Munson and illustrated by Tara Calahan King. And of course, we're reading this one with permission of Chronicle Books of San Francisco. All right. And of course, as always, like a really big thank you to Chronicle Books. A big shout out to Eva Zimmerman for allowing us to be here sharing stories from Chronicle Books. Many, many indeed that we've shared here. I just love that page too. Pie. All right, let's see what's going on. Enemy Pie. Story by Derek Munson and illustrations by Tara Calahan King. And of course, read with permission of Chronicle Books of San Francisco. It should have been a perfect summer. My dad helped me build a treehouse in our backyard. My sister was at camp for 3 whole weeks. And I was on the best baseball team in town. It should have been a perfect summer, but it wasn't. Oh, why? Well, it was all good until Jeremy Ross moved into the neighborhood, right next door to my best friend Stanley. I did not like Jeremy Ross. He laughed at me when he struck me out in the baseball game. He had a party on his trampoline and I wasn't even invited. But my best friend Stanley was. Jeremy Ross was the one and only person on my enemy list. I never even had an enemy list until he moved into the neighborhood. But as soon as he came along, I needed one. I hung it up in my treehouse where Jeremy Ross was not allowed to go. Oh, goodness. Dad understood stuff like enemies. He told me that when he was my age, he had enemies too, but he knew of a way to get rid of them. I asked him to tell me how. Tell you how? I will show you how, he said. He pulled a really old recipe book off of the kitchen shelf. Inside, there was a worn-out scrap of paper with faded writing. Dad held it up and squinted at it. Enemy pie, he said, satisfied. Enemy pie. You may be wondering, what exactly is enemy pie? Well, I was wondering too. But Dad said the recipe was so secret, he couldn't even tell me. I decided it must be magic. I begged him to tell me something, anything. I will tell you this, he said. Enemy pie is the fastest known way to get rid of enemies. Oh. Now, of course, this got my mind working. What kinds of things, disgusting things, would I put into a pie for an enemy? I brought Dad some weeds from the garden, but he just shook his head. I brought him earthworms and rocks, but he didn't think he would need those either. I gave him the gum I've been chewing on all morning. He gave it right back to me. So if none of those things go into enemy pie, what is going in enemy pie? What does it have? I went out to play alone. I shot baskets until the ball got stuck on the roof. I threw a boomerang that never came back to me. And all the while, I listened to the sounds of my dad chopping and stirring and blending the ingredients of enemy pie. This could be a great summer after all. Enemy pie was going to be awful. I tried to imagine how horrible it must smell, or worse yet, what it would look like. But when I was in the backyard looking for ladybugs, I smelled something really, really, really good. Oh, it smelled so good. And as far as I could tell, it was coming from our kitchen. I was a little confused. What's with this enemy pie smelling so good? I went in to ask Dad what was wrong. Enemy pie shouldn't smell this good. But Dad was smart. If enemy pie smelled bad, your enemy would never eat it, he said. I could tell he had made enemy pie before. The buzzer rang, and Dad put on the oven mitts and pulled the pie out of the oven. It looked like plain old pie. It looked good enough to eat. I was catching on. But still, I wasn't really sure how this enemy pie worked. What exactly did it do to enemies? Maybe oops, sorry about that. Twice this week that I've gotten a call while I'm reading. The buzzer rang and Dad put on the oven mitts and pulled the pie out of the oven. It looked like plain old pie. It looked good enough to eat. I was catching on. But still, I wasn't really sure how this enemy pie worked. What exactly did it do to enemies? Maybe it made their hair fall out. What do you think? Or their breath stinky. Maybe it made bullies cry. I asked my dad, but he was no help. He wouldn't tell me a thing. But while the pie cooled, he filled me in on my job. And what was this job? He talked quietly. There is one part of enemy pie that I can't do. In order for it to work, you need to spend a day with your enemy. Oh no. Even worse, you have to be nice to him. It's not easy, but that's the only way that enemy pie can work. Are you sure you want to go through with this? Of course I was. It sounded horrible. It was scary, but it was worth a try. All I had to do was spend one day with Jeremy Ross. Then he would be out of my hair for the rest of my life. I rode my bike to his house and knocked on the door. Oh, let the fun begin. When Jeremy opened the door, he seemed surprised. He stood on the other side of the screen door and looked at me, waiting for me to say something. I was nervous. Can you play? I asked. He looked confused. I will go ask my mom, he said. He came back with his shoes in his hands. His mom walked around the corner to say hello. You boys stay out of trouble, she said, smiling. We rode bikes for a while and played on the trampoline. Then we made some water balloons and threw them at the neighbor girls. But we missed. Jeremy's mom made us lunch. After lunch, we went over to my house. It was strange, but I was kind of having fun with my enemy. He almost seemed nice. But of course, I couldn't tell Dad that, since he had worked so hard to make the enemy pie. Jeremy Ross liked my basketball hoop. He said he wished he had a basketball hoop, but they didn't have enough room for one. I let him win a game just to be nice. Jeremy Ross knew how to throw a boomerang. He threw it and it came right back to him. I threw it and it went over my house and into the backyard. When we climbed over the fence to find it, the first thing Jeremy noticed was my treehouse. Uh-oh. My treehouse was my treehouse. I was the boss. If my sister wanted in, I didn't have to let her. If my dad wanted in, I didn't have to let him. And if Jeremy wanted in, what happens? Can we go in it? He asked. I knew he was going to ask me that, but he was the top person, the only person on my enemy list. And enemies aren't allowed in my treehouse. But he did teach me to throw a boomerang, and he did have me over for lunch, and he did let me play on his trampoline. He wasn't being a very good enemy. Okay, I said, but hold on. So I climbed up ahead of him and tore the enemy list off the wall. I had a checkerboard and some cards in the treehouse, and we played games until my dad called us down for dinner. Mhm. We pretended we didn't hear him, and when he came out to get us, we tried to hide from him. But somehow he found us. Dad made us macaroni and cheese for dinner, my favorite. It was Jeremy's favorite too. Maybe Jeremy Ross wasn't so bad after all. I was beginning to think that maybe we should just forget about enemy pie. But sure enough, after dinner, Dad brought out the pie. I watched as he cut the pie into 8 thick slices. Dad, I said, it sure is nice having a new friend in the neighborhood. I was trying to get his attention and trying to tell him that Jeremy Ross was no longer my enemy. But Dad only smiled and nodded. I think he thought I was just pretending. Oh, Dad dished up 3 plates side by side with big pieces of pie and giant scoops of ice cream. He passed one to me and one to Jeremy. Wow, Jeremy said, looking at the pie. My dad never makes pies like this. It was at this point that I panicked. I didn't want Jeremy to eat enemy pie. He was my friend. I couldn't let him eat it. No, Jeremy, don't eat it. It's a bad pie. I think it's poisonous or something. Jeremy's fork stopped before reaching his mouth. He crumpled his eyebrows and looked at me funny. I felt relieved. I had saved his life. I was a hero. If it's so bad, Jeremy asked, then why has your dad already eaten half of it? I turned to look at my dad. Sure enough, he was eating enemy pie. Good stuff, he mumbled through a mouthful. And that was all he said. I sat there watching them eat enemy pie for a few seconds. Dad was laughing. Jeremy was happily eating, and neither of them was losing any hair. It seemed safe enough. So I took a tiny taste. And guess what? Enemy pie was delicious. After dessert, Jeremy rode his bike home, but not before inviting me over to play on his trampoline in the morning. He had said he'd teach me how to flip. As for enemy pie, I still don't know how to make it. I still wonder if enemies really do hate it, or if their hair falls out, or their breath turns bad. But I don't know if I will ever get an answer because I just lost my best enemy. The end. Oh, classic. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. I hope you enjoyed that one. That is indeed one that cracks me up all the time. Enemy Pie, written by Derek Munson and illustrated by Tara Calahan King, and of course read with permission of Chronicle Books of San Francisco. Thank you so much for joining in. Absolutely. And with many things in life too, we're scared of what we don't know. And so learning about people, learning about cultures, learning about things will open our minds and definitely open our thoughts and how we see the world. So it's only if we learn, if we open our minds and push ourselves to actually take an active step to learn about others is the only way that we can be tolerant, the only way that we can be accepting, and the only way that we can keep making this world better and safe for everybody. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. I am glad you were here for that one. Enemy pie. So now you know how to get rid of your enemy. Thank you so much for joining in. And as we are about to end, I just thought too, let me go back to that one. So this one was, did you hear about the joke? Did you hear the joke about the mountain? And I saw people posted in there too. There was somebody, I think, who got it. Somebody said it was over me. I'll try and get it, I promise. But let us just see who was there with us. So the answer is, of course, you won't get over it. Did you hear the one about the mountain? You won't get over it. Sorry, I had to. Thank you for indulging me. I had to do those today. Thank you so much for joining in. And of course, Eva Scarlett, one more time, joining in from England, and Jade as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have yourselves a beautiful weekend. Thank you for joining in Story Time. Mehita Bel Kamanga out in Katete, Zambia. And of course, Ethan and Evan, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining in. I know it is getting late that side. I hope you have yourselves a beautiful night and the sweetest of dreams. And of course, good morning to you, April Osborne. Of course, you joined us from Orange County with the kids, and I know I have the names down here. Let us see who was with us. I'll come to them. Oh yes, there we go. That was Jemison, Alicia, and Linley. Good morning to you and welcome to Storytime. I hope your first Storytime Live was enjoyable. Thank you so much for joining in. I am glad you were here with us. And of course, in Sonta Mwanza and the kids, Mubenga and Lou, good evening to you out in Lusaka, Zambia. Thank you so much for joining in. Oh, I am so glad I got the names correctly. Yes, indeed. Thank you, April Booker Osborne. Thank you so much. And Enid, love you back, sweetheart. Love you back. Thank you so much for joining in. And of course, this was the answer to the last one. Sarah and Nathan, thank you so much for joining in and sharing as always. All right, let's see who else. Jen Betta tried it. You said echo something. It's not. No, it's not. It's over my head. Oh, absolutely. Thank you for all those answers to that one. Thank you so much for indulging me. And good morning to you as well, Dede and Mariah, joining us also in Katete, Zambia, with Oscar Mwanakulanga, my brother. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime today. Absolutely love it. And Betty, say great read. It is a great book indeed. And Betty, do let me know who was joining in with you today for that story. Thank you so much for joining us. I am glad you were here. Oh, I did not know that, Jen Veda said. Did you know I worked on this book when I was on the editorial team at Chronicle Books? No, I did not. Jen Veda, it is a great one indeed. Well, we're still enjoying it after all this time. Thank you so much for your amazing work as well. Thank you. All right, and I say delightful book, a great recipe for making a new friend. Smart dad. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ellen Edwards. And Jade, you said enemy? Friend. All right, absolutely. I think that is absolutely spot on. Thank you so much for joining in Story Time today. I absolutely love it that you were here. Thank you. I wish you and your loved ones the very best of the weekend. And of course, please let us remember to play our part. Do stay safe, wash your hands, mask up, and follow the health guidelines. And remember, we are protecting not just ourselves, but our neighbors, our community, and everybody in it. So thank you so much for joining in. And please do keep following those health guidelines. Do keep your social distance. Please do stay distanced as recommended. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. And Sarah, April Booker, you say, thank you for the wonderful story time. Well, absolutely love it. You know, story time is what it is because of people like you. Everybody, the kids joining in today is amazing. And just knowing that there are amazing faces, amazing people out there trying their very best in life is all we need. And yes, indeed, keep spreading the love. Let us keep shining a light and also just making this world a better place. Thank you so much for joining in Story Time. As always, it is much love from me, and I will see you again on Monday with more exciting stories. And I have a great surprise for you for next Friday. So do keep an eye out on the Storytime platforms to see the events that are coming, and of course to see what that special thing is happening on Friday. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Much love from me. Hugs, and I wish you and your loved ones a very, very good day indeed. Happy weekend. Bye-bye.
Where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing. Favorite stories with this great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to be hearing. Read me all of your stories. Read me all of your stories. Some with people who look like me, others very different from the way that I look and think. Read me all of your stories. Read me all of your stories. Some stories from far away, others right here in my neighborhood. Read me all of your stories. Read me all of your stories. Some with people who look like me, others very different from the way that I look and think. Read me all of your stories. Read me all of your stories. Some stories from far away, others right here in my neighborhood. Story time. Story time. Story time with Mr. Lamada.